You are listening to It's Midnight Somewhere with DJs Mistress McCutcheon and The Wasteland.
It's midnight somewhere. It's midnight. It's midnight somewhere. It's midnight.
Hi, this is Mistress McCutcheon coming to you from downtown Toronto. And of course, I'm accompanied by my brother from another mother and DJ partner in crime, The Wasteland.
Hi, guys.
No funny joke?
No, sorry, not today. We have a guest. I didn't want to make it weirder than I typically do.
Fair enough. We do have a guest today. We are chatting with Isaac Howlett from Empathy Test. Welcome, Isaac.
Hi there. Good to be joining you.
We're going to jump right in. We want to get started with the origin story for Empathy Test. How did things get started?
Okay, well, way back in 2013, me and my good friend Adam were having a conversation about how we'd both recently watched the Drive movie with Ryan Gosling, of course. And apparently it's a massive cliche to say that it was the Drive movie that inspired you to form a synth pop band, but that's how it happened. Yeah, well,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's become a massive cliche, and yeah, you know, like people. I guess the gatekeepers of synth music frown upon it. So I did sort of tell myself I wasn't going to say that anymore, but I mean, it's a bit difficult when it's the truth, you know. We were making music together before, on and off, like mostly with guitars, and I was an acoustic singer-songwriter, and Adam was a underground dance music producer, and so, as you can imagine, despite being good friends, it was quite difficult to find a style of music that would work for both of us, and really it was when we tried synthesizers that suddenly things clicked, and somehow my songs and Adam's style of music started working together, and we made a song called Losing Touch, which is still to date our biggest track. I think it's had like 5 million total streams on Spotify if you count the remastered version.
Wow.
Yeah, so that song's really had legs, and it introduced us to a wide range of listeners all around the world. And then we started touring, and it's mostly just me now doing the touring with some live musicians. And every now and again, Adam pops up and produces some music with me. So, yeah, that's the origin of Empathy Test.
Wow.
I gotta say, I love that movie, though, too. Drive is a great film.
Yeah. But, you know, like, supposedly, you know, therefore we don't understand the history of synth pop, and we've never heard of bands like Duran Duran and OMD and Depeche Mode and all of, you know, the people that inspired the people that made the Drive movie. It was it's just that the people that made the Drive movie kind of reminded us of the existence.
And just to say, because if people are assuming you don't know the history, I love the fact that you've taken to trolling people with T-shirts.
Yeah. I mean, that's our philosophy now, is like, you know, put it on a T-shirt and make money out of it. Yeah. We were kind of, there were certain people from the beginning were very dubious about our, I think they thought we were hipsters with laptops, which basically we were. Well, I mean, we wanted to be hipsters, but we weren't even hipsters. Sorry, it's already 10 o'clock on a Sunday, so I'm a little bit tired already. But so we were wannabe hipsters, So it was like, you know, who are these guys? They've never even owned an analog synthesizer, and they're making music using analog synth sounds. But I mean, what musicians can afford analog synthesizers.
Especially these days.
Yeah. So yeah, screw those guys. I mean, we've still got a career, so we must be doing something right.
Absolutely. So when you guys started out, you didn't set out really to be a goth band, but it seemed like you kind of got embraced by the darker scene. What was that kind of like? Was it a surprise or
kind of weird? Yeah. I mean, it was really Germany that first kind of discovered us and got into us. A guy called Rosie at a club in Dresden basically came across us and was going to come to our first show that we did in London. And he actually missed his flight, but luckily his friend who he told should also come, who was Thomas, who's one of the co-founders of Wave Gothic Treffen, which is one of the biggest goth festivals, certainly in Europe, maybe the world. He came to the show, and we were playing in the Seabright Arms in London. It was our first ever show, and we almost sold it out, which was a big surprise. I mean, that was only 120 people, but we were very surprised to find that there were people who had flown from Germany and Sweden and maybe even some other places to witness our first show, including this guy Thomas, who after the show approached me at the bar and said that he looked after a small festival in Germany and wondered if we'd like to play. And I was like, yeah, amazing, great. And, being completely like unprepared for anything like this, I didn't take his contact details or a card or anything at all. And it wasn't until later when I mentioned it to the record label from New York who released our second EP, Stars and Letters Records, and he was like, are you serious? Wave Gothic Treffen? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And he was like, that's like the biggest goth festival in the world, dude. It wasn't a very good American accent, I realized. And we
got you covered there. Don't worry.
Okay. About it. I was like, oh, okay. So I tracked this guy down, and like a few months later, we played to 1,000 people in this huge venue in Germany. And actually, before that, the guy Rosie, who didn't make it to the show, booked us to come and play at his club, and we supported Curly and Camera, who are a proper goth band, and that was a very weird experience, and because they weren't playing any music at the beginning of the show or between the acts, which was odd, and we just walked out onto this stage, just the two of us at the time, and there were just rows and rows of people wearing black and completely silent, and none of them knew who we were, and we just were like, hi, we're Empathy Test, and started playing our songs, and then in between they clapped for a certain amount of time, and then they stopped, and then there was complete silence again. We started another song, and it was absolutely surreal. But yeah, I mean, from then to now, we are touring and sort of doing our own headline shows and selling 250, 300, 400 tickets a night in Germany. So it's pretty amazing, and we're very grateful to Rosie, of course, for discovering us.
Now, let's take a step back. May 2020 is when Monsters was released. What was it like having that come out at that time?
Well, it was kind of a blessing and a curse, really, because the album was almost finished, and we had set up the crowdfunder, and were all ready to release, and then the pandemic kicked in and the lockdowns started, and we didn't really know what to do, and the crowdfunder kind of like stopped for a moment, and we were like, is that as far as it's going to go? And the PR company that was working with us on the release were telling us that we should maybe postpone. And I know a lot of bigger bands did do that, but I was like, well, it's been 3 years since the first 2 albums that we released at the same time, and we promised the fans an album, and I just thought, well, everyone's kind of stuck at home with nothing to do. It's probably a great time to release an album. And everyone was really happy, and it got loads of great reviews, and we sold loads of CDs and vinyl, and it was kind of great because we without being able to tour, we needed some income. So that kind of tided us over for a couple of years, while we couldn't tour. But then, when you release an album, you kind of keep the buzz and the hype going by going out on tour and playing the songs from the album to as many people as you can. And we weren't able to do that. So there was, like, after a couple of months, this kind of real feeling like the album had just disappeared without a trace, which was kind of scary. And a bit depressing. But I mean, the shows that we've been doing recently have basically been the delayed Monsters tour. And it's been really great finally getting to play them to people, and kind of feels like, those songs, although they're already nearly 3 years old, are still quite fresh, and still have a lot more to give. So it's worked out okay.
Is it strange touring for an album that's that old, this far out?
No, I mean, I think I'm sure most people can probably feel the same way, that the last 2 years kind of, felt like a really long time, but also a really short time as well. Like, like they didn't really happen.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I was really worried about our career because we, I think 2017, 18 and 19, we were really on this very steep trajectory, and, we were touring so much, and we supported a load of bigger bands like Covenant, BMV Nation, Mesh, Aesthetic Perfection. And we did America for the first time, Canada, Russia. And it felt like, wow, like this is really growing fast. And then there was a bit of a fear coming out of the pandemic that maybe it was all over. Maybe that was it. We had our 15 minutes. But doing these shows and kind of selling more tickets than ever has really restored my faith that it's still a viable career, and we've still got more time as a band. So yeah, it was weird at first. It was only kind of weird when we were doing shows and there was social distancing and masks and all of that kind of thing. But yeah, weirdly, it kind of feels like all of that's been forgotten now, and it's just still people getting COVID every now and again. But I've had my one dose. I don't know, maybe I'm due another one soon. Of COVID, I mean, I've had the vaccine, but only I've had 3 doses of the vaccine, but only one of the actual virus.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
Yeah. I'm just recovering myself because last week is when I finally tested negative and was like, oh, okay, but the fatigue is very real afterwards, and I'm still kind of recovering on that. And yeah, I mean, these past couple of years have been such a strange disruption in everyone's lives, where it feels like a very long time and a very short time at the same time. It's just that distortion.
Yeah. I think without any kind of like markers, like memorable events happening throughout the year, it kind of just all blended into one.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, we launched our podcast just as everything started shutting down.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually featured the single from Monsters, I think, on the second or third episode.
Oh, okay.
So we're right there with you on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you were still able to carry on.
Oh, we had to figure things out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard.
A steep technical learning curve, that's for sure. But as far as markers in time, you played the Prague Gothic Treffen last year. What was playing a big festival? Well, it's a sizable festival. It's not the Wave Gothic Treffen, but playing a festival in the middle of the pandemic, what was your experience like?
I mean, it was kind of still coming out of the pandemic, really. But it was kind of weird. I think the weirdest thing is in a lot of industries, obviously, including the hotel industry, everyone got laid off, and so at that point, everyone in hotels was new, and we've had some pretty weird sort of checking in experiences. And the one in Prague was probably the weirdest because there'd been some kind of mix up. We had asked for 2 rooms for 4 people. And somehow, instead of 2 rooms being booked in my name, there were 2 rooms booked in the name of another band. Hang on, now the names just hang on. Edwin. How could I forget? Yeah, there were 2 rooms booked in the name Edwin. And I don't know whether you guys are familiar with the band Bragolin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great band, very nice people, both called Edwin. What the current lineup anyway, which I didn't know at the time. And yeah, this very nice but very confused Czech lady was who there was a sign on the desk saying trainee. Was very confused about the situation, and there was a slight kind of language barrier, and we were talking for a good 20 minutes or something, trying to explain that we should have 2 rooms. And she was asking if any of us were called Edwin, and I was telling her over and over again, no one in our band is called Edwin. And she's like, "What's your name?" And then she's asking Oliver, our keyboard player, what his name is. And then and we were like, we're sharing a room, but there are 2 more guys coming, and they need a room too. And she's like, "And either of them called Edwin?" No. It was just like going round and round in circles for ages. And eventually, I called the organizer of the festival, and I said, we've got a bit of a problem here. There aren't two rooms for us, but there's 2 rooms for someone called Edwin. And he was like, "Oh, take one of those rooms." And I'm like, "Okay, but you're going to have to tell this lady." So I hand the phone to her, and, they have a conversation, and she's like, "Oh yeah, okay, it's all fine." And then she gives us the 2 keys, and we go upstairs finally after like half an hour or something of talking at the desk. We go upstairs and we open the door of the first room, and there is someone's clothes and shoes in the room.
Oh no.
But luckily no one in the room. So we just walk back out again. Great. We walk to the other room. Luckily that one's empty. And we leave the stuff in there, go back downstairs and say, there's someone in the room. She's like, no, this is impossible. How can this be? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's Edwin. And she's like, "Oh, well, I'm very sorry, very sorry." And eventually she gives us another key, and we go to the festival to check out the bands the night before, and then the next day we meet Bragolin, and I'm like, "Oh, nice to meet you. What's your name?" And one of them says, Edwin. And I'm like, "Oh, you're Edwin." And I'm like, "I think I saw your shoes yesterday." And then I turn to the other guy and I'm like, "Oh, what's your name?" And he's like, "You're not going to believe it." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, I'm called Edwin too. And I'm like, wow, okay, so both Edwins had a room booked for them. They shared, and then anyway, long story, but it took a lot longer in real life. But that's been the kind of surreal like situations that have occurred since the pandemic, where you just have all of these people who are like new in their jobs and have no idea what's going on. I mean, luckily we've been really, really lucky with flights and stuff. I know there's been complete chaos. I don't know about in America, but and Canada, but there has been complete chaos in Europe because they don't have enough baggage handlers anymore. So like we've had lots of late flights, but none got cancelled, luckily.
Yeah.
Oh, here there's chaos because they don't have a lot of anybody. It doesn't matter what position. Apparently, I was reading about this the other day. They don't even have enough pilots anymore.
Right. Yeah. I think we played in 2017 or 18. But I saw some. Some people have all the bad luck. I seem to be quite lucky. Touch wood.
Well, I hope that keeps up for you when you hit the US.
Yeah. Well, if we do hit the US, it's still in doubt. I mean, not in doubt, but our petition got approved, but obviously that's only the first stage, and we now have to book our interviews, and there is a long waiting list. So it's like, can we get an interview in time? So it's really horrible, and that's why I've seen other artists doing it as well. I think maybe it was Zola Jesus or something on Twitter. Someone was saying like, they felt really weird like pushing their American dates because they still had no idea whether it was going to happen. Right. I think literally everyone is trying to go on tour at once in the autumn or the fall.
From a ticket buying standpoint, it sure feels like it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's me and Daniel Graves from Aesthetic Perfection, who's obviously also going on tour, and our two tours overlap. Have been talking about just how many people are announcing tours, and are we going to sell any tickets because of the huge amount of competition? I mean, we've already combined 2 nights on our tour. We ended up in the same city on the same night as other shows. We are combining with Kalen Mikler and Kanga in Phoenix, and we are combining with Minwi Machine and Crew Lies. Do you guys know how to pronounce that?
Yeah, you said it right.
I think it's Crew Lies as well, yeah.
Great. Because I did an interview a few days ago, and I had exactly the same issue, but the person interviewing me didn't know either, so we spent a while discussing all the different options. But I mean, I love their music, but I've not sure I've ever heard anyone say it. So Crew Lies, yes, in Atlanta. So I mean, that's awesome because that's going to be 4 great bands, because we're bringing Night with us. It's going to be 4 great bands in one night. In fact, in Atlanta there's more, so it's like turned into a kind of one-day festival. I'm not sure whether we're all doing like 20 minutes or something, but I mean, it's just that crazy situation where it's like, well, either we don't do a show in that city because our routing dictates that that's where we need to be, or we go reach out to the other booking agent and see whether they want to join forces, and luckily they did.
Well, that, and you're going to be at Cold Waves in Chicago on September 22nd. Did other dates get planned around Cold Waves?
Yeah, I think it's the 23rd, actually. I think we're on the Saturday.
Okay.
Could be wrong. I hope I'm right, because that's what I've been writing everywhere. Yes, I mean, I've been trying to get this tour booked since for about a year, and at the beginning there was obviously the ban on all European visitors to the States, and And then we were working with Darker Side of Light, which is Troy Hilton, and Troy had a mini stroke in the early part of the year. He's fine, and he's but he's now having to recover from that. So don't know whether I should call her his assistant, because she might just be another booking agent, but someone else took over, and that was a big setback, because someone had to pick up the pieces and try and get it booked as quickly as possible, and with so many kind of venues having disappeared, promoters disappeared, people not responding to emails for a long time. It's taken we still haven't got, there's a couple more, maybe 3 dates that's still not even announced yet, and we're a month away from the beginning of the tour. There's also ticket links that haven't appeared yet. So it's all been hard work and taken a lot longer than I think it probably would have 2-3 years ago. Yes, I completely lost track of what it was you asked me. Yeah. It was kind of the situation where we wanted to do the tour around this time. I really wanted to play at Cold Waves. We haven't been invited yet. And I also wanted to play at Absolution. So I asked the booking agency if there was a chance we could get on those, and they found room for us. So,
Nice.
Yeah. So then we, I think Cold Waves was always the beginning of the tour. So we were working from then. We had to move things around a bit, because of then booking Absolution. I think maybe we had to go the other way around America, after that, which, then involved a lot of shuffling around. But, we're really happy to be playing both of those.
Yeah.
So most of your tour, you're going to be the headliner, though, right? Is that a little more exciting or intimidating, or both?
It's a lot more pressure and stress and responsibility. Yeah. It would have been nice if our original plan, off the back of the support tour we did with Aesthetic Perfection, which was great because, we just had to buy our flights and visa and get over there. And then once we were there was a tour bus, and we didn't really have to worry about much. And then off the back of that, we were, really psyched to go straight back and do another one the next year as a headline. And then, of course, it couldn't happen. And so trying to do it now, where the market's so saturated and people have bought so many tickets, also no one's got any money, and the price of petrol / gas has gone through the roof. Suddenly all of these costs are on us, and it's pretty scary. So if anyone's listening and they haven't bought a ticket yet and they're thinking about it, just do us a favor and go and buy a ticket now.
I would love to, but you guys forgot about Canada.
I know.
What's up with that?
I knew. I didn't even really check where you guys were based.
We're in Toronto.
Yeah, and you said Toronto at the beginning, and I was like, oh shit. The truth is I don't really know. I did ask about it at the beginning, we were going to do the classic thing of dipping in when we were in New York State and doing Toronto, and then, the same when we're at Seattle in Vancouver. But for some reason at the time, Troy, who is from Toronto, I think.
Hamilton, I think he's out of Hamilton.
Okay.
Not far.
Yeah.
It's an hour outside of the city.
Okay, cool. General area then. He was, for some reason, at the beginning, sort of saying, we'll have to see about Canada. And then the person who took over said they didn't have any contacts. Maybe there's still a chance we can contact some people, and because it's very difficult to tour Canada on its own. Like that's really
Yes.
the only
Oh,
way
yeah.
to do it is to kind of dip in and out. You can't be like, oh, we're going on a Canadian tour and we're just going to travel thousands of miles between each show.
Oh, absolutely. Because
yeah.
you could fit all of Europe inside of just the province of Ontario.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a huge country and most of us live in the southern part of it. But the tip is you could actually, from Chicago, do Toronto before you go to Chicago, because Toronto is only an hour flight away from Chicago. You're right about, like, if you're in upstate New York, you can get to Toronto. And if you're in Boston, getting to Montreal is not that far either.
And
okay.
looking at your dates, this is the
Yeah.
funny part.
Yeah.
You're playing Detroit,
Yeah.
and then you're playing Albany the next show. And the fastest way to get there is to drive through Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We should. Do we have room there? We should definitely look into this. I'm making a note.
We'll set you up with some emails.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I mean,
'Cause
it does seem ridiculous that we're not doing any Canadian dates, and we do have some Canadian fans who are vocally annoyed about it. So, well, upset. Yeah, should I say? Yeah. Well, if you guys have any contacts, then yeah, send them my way. I'll try.
yeah.
Yeah, sure will.
We've
I
got
have a couple
like
emails.
a month.
I got a couple of emails. I'll shoot them to you when we're done.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah.
So, one thing you definitely notice listening to your music is that it feels very, very introspective. What inspires your writing?
I guess I started writing songs when I was about 13, 14. And it was always a kind of cathartic thing, I guess, getting things off of your chest that you either can't talk about or, it's like just a good way of doing it. And I've kind of I've always been into songs that tell a personal story, and lyrics that I connect with in a much bigger way than I am, bands. There's bands that I like Muse, for example, who musically are amazing, but I've never really kind of connected with the lyrics, and I've always felt that they're kind of a little lacking in depth, I suppose. I don't know whether that's true. I mean, maybe it's just very well covered, but like a band like The Cure, for example, my favorite band, I just love his lyrics. And even when Robert Smith is kind of being quite, singing stuff that's like very well trodden ground, like in Love Song, for example, those lyrics are like real cliche lyrics, but then there's something about his voice and his delivery that make you feel like he really means those lyrics. So, it's obviously relationships, failed relationships, particularly, a big inspiration. Most of the sort of early Empathy Test songs are all kind of mostly relationship based. Some of them, like sometimes I kind of use a relationship as I make it sound like it's about a relationship, but it's actually about something else hidden beneath. And I think more recently, I've started writing a lot of songs about the kind of experience of lockdown, but hopefully not in a sort of cliche like animal in a cage type thing, but just the kind of psychological pressures of surviving a lockdown. It takes me a while to kind of process things, so I kind of write about things with hindsight, and so I didn't really write anything for the whole time during lockdown because it was so kind of uninspiring and boring, really. The sort of beginning of this year, I finally had kind of like, I guess when I started getting out touring again, and had the desire to actually write new material. But then I was writing about, how I felt in the years before.
Yeah, and that's
Cool.
funny because there were definitely two camps of people during lockdown, those who were bored and those who were just really busy, folks who were working from home and just never really stopped working.
Yeah. I mean, for me, everything stopped completely. And obviously at the beginning, I had, there was this feeling like of sort of complete freedom, ironically, there's no pressures now. I can just do whatever. And obviously the plan was like to write another album. Okay, well, we can't tour this one, so let's write another one. And I just couldn't do it. I achieved absolutely nothing. I think I need to be inspired, and I go and do a really amazing tour or a really amazing just gig. And then I come back and I feel invigorated and inspired, and creative. And then I write some songs because it's like, people want to hear this stuff. So let's make some more. So I was one of those underachievers, definitely, during the, get sort of being like feeling guilty about not getting anything done. What about you guys?
We started a podcast.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, as you said. Yeah.
That and my day job is in tech, so I never really stopped working. I've just been constantly at it at home and trying to stay really productive. But yeah, there is that guilt of like, am I being productive enough? And can I do this? But it's striking that balance, because when you're not inspired, it comes through in the actual product or the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work frontline. I was an essential worker, so I got like a month off, and that was it. So
yeah, it's a big challenge to just try to keep going. But I mean, there was a lot of content out there to consume.
Yes. Yeah.
So that kind of helped things along. But trying to produce content, you just have to strike the right moment when you're really feeling it. Otherwise, it seems forced. It feels uninspired. It falls flat.
Yeah, definitely. But I've kind of since then managed to write an album's worth of material. The only problem is that Adam, the producer member, is busy with other things, and we could really do with releasing some new material to bring some money in, but he is not financially reliant on it like I am. So that creates a slight problem. Depending on, when he springs back into action, we might see some Isaac Howlett solo material. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
In the works.
No, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Good to hear. But speaking of other content, what album or albums are you currently listening to?
Well, I have been getting into vinyl recently. So I've kind of been revisiting some classic albums. When you go from, paying £10 a month for Spotify Premium and being able to listen to whatever you like, and then it's like you've got to spend £20 on one album. Because I'm just starting out with my record collection, so I've been kind of playing it really safe and sort of going back and buying records that I really loved at the time, and have now bought on vinyl. So I got the Church's first album.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really loved that first album, but they kind of lost me as they went on. I kind of feel they got more and more poppy, and they were always poppy, and I love a good catchy chorus and hooks and whatever, but sort of musically they became more poppy, more mainstream as well. And
I'm right there with you. The first two albums are gold, and then I kind of fall off.
Yep. Same.
It must be really hard though, because I feel like those guys have never stopped touring since they they got they got their big break, I swear they always seem to be on tour, and I've no idea how you write songs, in that under that sort of work ethic. So
You do it in the toilet. No.
yeah, or in
who
sound
knows?
check. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I've got distracted already. And Block Party, Silent Alarm. I really love this band, Bombay Bicycle Club. But I don't know whether they have a wider appeal than just in the UK. Do you guys know Bombay Bicycle Club?
No, where are they? Are they from Pompeii? Where are they
No,
from?
no. I have no idea why they're called that. They're from near London, I think. They're from the UK. Yeah, one of my favorite albums. So Long, See You Tomorrow. Why do I not even remember the name of it?
I own this record. I listened to it. I don't know who they are.
One of my favorite albums. Yeah, it is. Every time I say So Long, I think of And Thanks for All the Fish.
Yes.
So Long, See You Tomorrow is a really brilliant album. I mean, newer stuff. I've kind of fallen into the trap of just listening to songs rather than albums, which is not great. I'm not proud of myself for that. I'm just having a look on Spotify now for my. I make a playlist every year where every time I hear a great track, I put it into this playlist, and at the end of the year, I sort of release it for public consumption. I really like this band from London, actually, called Idle Youth, who I don't think they've released an album yet. They're just still at the kind of releasing singles and building a following, but I totally recommend them if you like Empathy Test. And what else have I got in here? Echo Barrel. Have you guys discovered Echo Barrel?
Okay, yeah.
Yes, I like Echo Barrel. And they're a duo, and they're a man and a woman, and I don't know their names, but I know he has a side project called Fluid Ghost. If you like Echo Barrel,
Are they French?
yes.
Yes. Yeah. What else have I got in here? I'm really into this very poppy person from the UK called Phoebe Green, who I don't know whether I'm going to be a full blown fan, but listen to her track So Grown Up, which has got really great lyrics, and she must be like pretty young, early 20s. And it's a great track. It's got like lines in it like, I don't know how to behave when I'm sober, and stuff like that. And like, wow, that's pretty cool deep lyrics. Yeah. I think there's a lot of young artists like writing some really interesting stuff right now, because it must be a really weird time to be like in your late teens, early 20s. I don't know what the hell it must have been like to be 18 in lockdown, like what an important year of your life. I know there were plenty of 18-year-olds like getting drunk in the parks in London, so I'm sure they probably just doing everything that we did at that age, just not in pubs and clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming of age and being in lockdown and trying to maneuver around your life and how you meet up with your friends and how you see people and get to meet other people. I can't even imagine how difficult. I was going to say I'm with you as well on being guilty of listening to songs and not full albums with newer music.
Yeah.
Because listening to records is such a tactile experience. You put on a record and maybe you don't remember the names of the songs because you're not looking at track listings. You're just listening to the record.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when it comes to songs, like it's so easy to flip through and go, oh, okay, here's a song. Oh, is this doing anything for me? And if it's not, you can just flip to the next MP3, and it makes it very simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of bad news for bands, because, it must be very easy for people to just put you on a playlist and only ever listen to that one song.
Right, right.
And how are you gonna then?
And that's how you get 5 million Spotify listens.
Yeah, but how are you gonna turn that into a tour? You know?
Right.
Right.
It's like you have to somehow convert those people into diehard fans. And I mean, obviously, if you consistently write great songs and release great songs, then hopefully you can get enough songs into their playlist to be like, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people who'll go and see bands for one song, but that's also very annoying for bands because just they're shouting for that one song for the whole show. Which even happens to us. So, luckily with us, like that we have although Losing Touch is, way bigger than any of the other songs, we do have plenty of others that are people's favorite song that they shout out. So there's at least Demons people shout for as
You mentioned earlier in our chat here how you got into synth pop without really looking at the roots or having a listen to like Duran Duran and Depeche Mode and other synth pop.
Well, I wouldn't that's what we were kind of it's assumed that we don't know those bands.
Gotcha.
I think you reversed that one, Laura. I think I meant it the other way.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask like if you've done any exploration on earlier synth pop, but we can totally scratch that.
Well, I mean, like I mean, weirdly, I've never got into Depeche Mode or which I'm sure would be upsetting for a lot of our fans, but. Like I know all the hits, and there's certain ones that I really like, but I don't know. Somehow I've never really delved that deeply into it. I think with the electronic stuff, I'm listening to new stuff, and with the older stuff, I'm listening to more like guitar stuff, like Interpol or Editors or White Lies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, if you had a question about specific artists or nothing, fire away.
Oh no, I was curious as you were mentioning, like you're rebuying albums that you're building your vinyl collection based on stuff that you know and love.
Yeah.
As far as what kind of examples of synth pop are those things that you're like, yes, I need to own that on vinyl.
No.
Fair?
No.
Okay.
I'm keen to. I own a lot of Cure records because my stepdad basically sold his record collection because he wasn't listening to it anymore and it was just getting damp and dusty, and he needed the space, so he sold a lot, but he kept the Cure records for me. So for quite a long time, I only had Cure records in my collection. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like, although we kind of make electronic music and we use synth sounds, I wouldn't really say we're a synth pop band. We're just a band,
Okay.
that writes songs with that kind of fulfill the things that we like in music. We both like epic, uplifting songs with a really catchy chorus. I think both of us kind of bonded musically over the Killers' Hot Fuss, and of course and Mr. Brightside was just impossible to get away from.
Still is.
And I mean, I think it still pops up in the UK charts, or it might still be in there. It's been in there ever since it came out. But like it was always putting it on at house parties and going crazy, singing along to it. And then like, it was just like one of those huge songs that kind of had a big impact on our lives somehow. And then the next one was Gautier, somebody that I used to know, which we did a cover, of course, of just these like great songs that you can't help but learn the words to and sing along to. And that's the kind of songs that we wanted to write. So although we were like inspired by the Drive soundtrack, and I think our favorite one was like Real Human Being. And at the beginning, we tried. That was what we were aiming for. That really simplistic synthwave sound, and we didn't quite pull it off because Losing Touch was like really nothing like that. Because I don't know, I kind of not very reserved in my vocal style. So, but we kept to the kick snare thing, and we did it for like one album, and then it was kind of boring, and it was like let's throw in some more interesting beats, and then third album kind of went a bit more indie, and had live acoustic drums in there, and there's some on there like Skin, for example, which feels to me like it could be Interpol or something. So I'd say we're kind of an indie band, a 90s indie guitar band, masquerading as a synth pop band is how I best describe it.
The fact that you're mentioning The Cure is one of your like big favorites, I'm like, oh, me too. And then you're mentioning Interpol, which I also have a connection to because Carlos D was my DJ mentor and my roommate.
Cool. Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So I remember when they were just starting off and going, oh, come see our band at this little like dive bar in the Lower East Side of New York.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, okay, you guys want to be Joy Division? They're like, yeah, but we're like modern Joy Division. And then they went off and became famous. So
yeah, I remember being in a club that doesn't exist anymore in London called Plastic People. In Old Street, and that place was like so popular for a while, and every time we went there was completely rammed full of people. And I remember one time, my friend Paul was like, "Oh my God, it's Carlos D," and I'm like, "What?" And we turn around, and this guy's like walking through the crowd. The crowd's just partying, and he's still got his like Interpol outfit on, and it was just like, wow, like a god is walking among us.
All right, so I think that's going to about wrap it up for us.
Yeah,
we have one final question though that some people get intimidated by, and that is what song of yours would you like us to play you out on?
Yeah, whoa. My first thought was like, well, that's not intimidating, and then I was like, oh, but what song am I going to choose? Because it's like
you got there.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, do I go for
that's not so bad? Fuck.
Yeah, do I go for the most popular ones, or do I go for my personal favorite, or
I'm interested. What's your personal favorite then?
Yeah.
The one that I am probably most proud of at the moment is Stop, which is from the Monsters album, which is kind of slightly different from everything else, and just has like, in my opinion, one of my best vocal performances, and really, really interesting lyrics. So yeah, let's go with Stop.
Okay.
Everything, all at the same time. Anything to escape my mind. And I can't go to sleep at night until I see the morning light. There's no one in your arms again. Still we all have to pretend we're fine.
And I guess that wraps it up.
So, of course, we hope that you all enjoyed our little chat with Isaac, and give us a like, a follow, a subscribe, share it to your friends, your neighbors, assault people and make them hit play on our podcast. We'd appreciate it. I will not cover your legal fees. You could always hit us up at It's Midnight Somewhere Podcast at gmail.com, or find us on Facebook at It's Midnight Somewhere Podcast. We'd, of course, like to thank Mr. Justin Minister for all of his lovely editing work. We would also like to thank Robin Bright for our lovely theme music, and Miss Marion Green for, again, our very lovely logo and artwork.
It's also lovely.
It's all lovely. Everything's lovely. Everything is lovely. You can, of course, find us every Friday night at 10 p.m. One of us or both of us will be on our Twitch stream at twitch.tv/prophecy_online. And I think that's it. Did I forget anything?
Nope, that's everything. Until next time. Bye.
It's midnight somewhere. It's midnight. It's midnight somewhere. It's midnight.
This podcast was almost called Real Gothics Are Disgusted.